They buried her last Sunday. I stood there, holding a crumpled handkerchief that wasn't mine, watching the brown soil slowly cover her white coffin. Her name was Amara, my cousin, my best friend, and the only person in the world who ever made me feel like I belonged. She was just 16, bright, full of stories, always smiling even when she was sick. And now, she was gone. I didn't cry that day, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't have the strength. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out every part of me that made me feel alive. Maybe that's what happens when the last good thing in your life disappears. You become a shell, just moving, breathing, but not really living. My name is Celso. I'm 17, and I live in a cramped, half-rotting house at the edge of town. Just me and my Uncle Boyd. My parents? They left when I was 9. Mama died of pneumonia. Papa vanished a year later, leaving only a letter that said, "I'm sorry." I grew up with silence and empty plates. People in town didn't really notice me, and when they did, it was usually to accuse me of something I didn't do. But Amara never treated me like that. She always said, "Celso, when you feel like no one sees you, I do." I always do. That's why losing her didn't feel like losing just a person. It felt like losing my reflection, like I couldn't even recognize who I was anymore without her. A week passed. I tried to return to normal routines, fetching water, helping Uncle fix fishing nets, walking to the Sari store with nothing but loose change in my pocket. Life moved, but I didn't. Then, something strange happened. It started with a soft sound outside my window at around 2 in the morning. A scratching noise. I live in a bamboo hut beside a small, overgrown backyard. I thought maybe it was just a stray dog or the wind. But when I peeked through the bamboo slats, I swear I saw a figure, barefoot, long-haired in a white dress, standing perfectly still, facing the dahot tree we planted when we were kids. I blinked. She was gone. I didn't sleep that night. My mind made all kinds of excuses, grief, exhaustion, imagination. But the next day, while I was washing dishes in the back, I found muddy footprints near the tree. Small ones, like a teenage girl's. My chest tightened. I didn't want to believe it, but the size, the shape, it reminded me of Amara. I tried to laugh it off when I told Karen, my neighbor and classmate. She's the only person besides Amara who talks to me like I'm not invisible. We usually sit on the school's broken bench and joke about failing math or how the canteen's lumpia always tastes like cardboard. When I told her about the footprints, she went silent for a moment, then said, "Maybe you just miss her so much, your mind's playing tricks." I wanted to believe that. I really did. But then came the second night. I woke up to the same scratching. This time it was louder, rhythmic, like fingernails dragging across wood. I crept to the window again. The backyard was darker than usual, like the shadows had thickened. And then I saw her. She was standing under the dahot tree. Her head was tilted, her hair falling like curtains over her face. She didn't move, didn't speak, but I felt something. A cold wave washed through my chest, like fear but heavier, sadder. And then she slowly raised her head. I couldn't see her face clearly. Just a pale outline and empty black eyes that looked too deep for someone so young. My throat tightened. My legs locked in place. She pointed at me, then vanished into the shadows. I stumbled back, nearly falling. My breathing was heavy and fast. Was I dreaming? Sleepwalking? Was this just my brain refusing to accept that Amara was gone? The next morning, I didn't speak. I didn't eat. I just sat under the tree, staring at the ground, hoping for answers. That's when Karen arrived, holding a plastic bag of warm Pandesal and a half-empty bottle of iced tea. "You look like you saw a ghost," she said. I wanted to tell her. I really did. But how do you explain seeing someone who's already been buried? Instead, I asked her, "Do you believe the dead can come back?" She chewed slowly, then said, "I think if someone dies with something unfinished, their spirit might linger." What? I shook my head. Nothing. Just curious. But it wasn't just curiosity anymore. That night, I dug into old photos of me and Amara, us climbing trees, selling halo by the roadside, laughing with dirty feet and messy hair. I found one of her standing under the same Dahat tree, the exact same spot where I saw her. It wasn't grief. It wasn't my imagination. She was there, and the next morning confirmed it. When I stepped outside, there was a folded note pinned to the tree. The handwriting was shaky, but I recognized it instantly. It was Amara's. "Help me, Celso. I'm not where I'm supposed to be." I dropped the note, my hands trembling. How was this possible? Who buried her? What was inside that coffin if it wasn't her? Was she reaching out to me from beyond, or was something pretending to be her? Karen came by that afternoon, and I didn't say much. But I noticed her glance at the backyard too long, like she felt something was off. Like maybe she saw her too. That night, I decided to keep watch. I sat by the window, holding my flashlight tightly, heart pounding like a drum in a funeral procession. Midnight passed. Then one, then two, and then I heard my name. Soft, raspy, right outside the window. Celso, it was her voice. I turned, slowly, and saw a pale face staring in through the slats. Her eyes wide, unmoving, full of sadness and something else. Something darker. But it wasn't just her. Standing behind her was a taller shadow. Featureless. Looming. Watching me. Waiting. And that's when I realized Amara didn't come back alone. And whatever followed her wasn't human. I didn't scream. I don't know why. Maybe because fear had already wrapped itself so tightly around my throat that it took my voice away. Or maybe because deep inside, I knew the moment I saw her eyes that wasn't just Amara anymore. She stood there, staring through the bamboo slats. Her lips slightly parted, like she wanted to speak, but couldn't. And behind her, that tall shadow. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It just watched. Then, in a blink, they vanished. I stumbled backward and sat on the floor, heart pounding in my ears. Morning couldn't come fast enough. As soon as the first light hit the edge of our broken Nipa walls, I ran to the backyard. There were no footprints. No sign of her. Only the note she left the night before, still pinned to the Dahat tree. But now, a second line had appeared beneath it. The ink was smeared, like it had been written with shaking hands. They buried me, but not my soul. That day at school, I couldn't concentrate. Every whisper in the hallway felt like it was about me. Every shadow, every rustle made me jump. Karen noticed. "You look like you're about to faint," she said, handing me a piece of her lunch. I didn't answer. I was afraid that if I spoke, I'd say too much. On the way home, I took the long route through the rice fields. That's when I saw him, an old man sitting beneath a mango tree. He was chewing something and muttering to himself. I'd seen him before during town fiestas. People said he was a Hylet or Albulario, maybe even half crazy. They called him Mangisco. I would have passed him like I always did, but he looked up and said something that froze me in my tracks. "You've seen her, haven't you?" he said, eyes cloudy but focused. "The girl who shouldn't be walking anymore." I stood there, unsure whether to run or kneel. I didn't tell anyone. I whispered. "How did you know?" He smiled faintly. "Because I've seen it before, and what follows the dead is never far behind." He motioned for me to sit beside him. I hesitated, but something in me, curiosity, fear, or maybe desperation, made me do it. Mang Isco spoke slowly, like his words had weight. "There are spirits that never cross over. Some are held back by grief, others by curses. But what walks behind them, what hides in their shadow, is much worse." He reached into his old, cracked bag and pulled out something wrapped in banana leaf. Inside was a small, glowing shell, a mutia. Its glow was soft, but when I looked at it, it felt like it pulled my heartbeat into rhythm. "This is from your mother's bloodline," he said. "She came from a long line of Bantalupa, guardians of the boundary between the living and the unseen. You didn't know, but it's in you. That's why the girl is reaching out, and that's why they're watching." My head spun. Bantailupa? Mutia? My mother never told me anything like that. But she died so young. And my father, he never spoke of the past. I looked at Mang Isco. What do they want? He sighed. The one standing behind her is no ordinary molto. It's an aswang, an ancient one. It follows grief. It feeds on the bond between the living and the dead. Amara is the bait. But you're the key. He handed me the mutia. The moment I touched it, I felt warmth spread through my palm. Not fire, more like a heartbeat, as if something old had just awakened inside me. You must protect that, he said. It will reveal itself in time. But beware, those creatures can sense it now. They will come. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind through the bamboo walls made my skin crawl. I clutched the mutia tight in my hand, its soft glow pulsing like it was alive. By the third night, the dreams began. In them, I saw my mother, standing at the edge of a river calling out my name. Her voice was warm, but her eyes, they were scared. She kept pointing to something behind me, but every time I turned around, I woke up. On the fourth night, Karen knocked on our door. I couldn't sleep, she said. I think I saw something outside my window. I know you think I'm just being paranoid, but no, I said, cutting her off. You're not. They're watching all of us now. She looked at me, confused. So I told her everything. About the Dahat tree, about the mutia, about Mang Isco and my mother's hidden past. She didn't laugh. She didn't even blink. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something I didn't expect, a small silver comb. This was my grandmother's, she said. She said it was from the Dawada. She made me promise never to throw it away. The comb shimmered under the moonlight. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just someone caught in this with me. She was part of it too. Maybe fate had brought us together long before we understood why. That night, the training began. Mang Isco met us by the mangrove swamp just before midnight. He drew symbols in the dirt, burned herbs that smelled like earth and fire, and whispered ancient prayers in a language I couldn't understand. He taught us how to listen, not just with our ears, but with our spirit. He said the world was full of whispers. Trees remember, rivers dream, and the dead, they speak if we dare to listen. I learned to move with the wind, to hold the mutia in my palm and let it guide me, like a compass through invisible paths. Karen, with her silver comb, could sense when spirits were near. Together, we were learning to walk a line that no one else could see. But it wasn't easy. There were nights when the shadows pressed close. When I heard Amara's voice weeping outside, begging to be let in. Nights when my uncle stared at me too long, like he knew something but refused to say it. And then I remembered something strange from years ago. How once, as a child, I saw my father burying something in the backyard. He thought I was asleep. I never questioned it. But now I wondered, was he hiding something from my mother's side? Or worse, from something darker? The next morning, I dug in the backyard. Under the old washing stone, buried in a tin box wrapped with cloth, I found a bundle of letters. My mother's handwriting. Letters she wrote, but never sent. To my father. To me. To someone named Salome. In one, she wrote, "They're watching the bloodline. They know we carry the seal. If anything happens to me, protect the boy. The mutia will awaken in time, but it must never fall into their hands." I sat there, dirt on my knees, the letters trembling in my hand. My heart pounded. They always knew. Suddenly, I heard it again. The whisper. Only this time, it wasn't from the trees. It was from under the ground. A soft voice, fragile and broken. "Celso, they're coming." And then the earth trembled. Not an earthquake, something else. Something beneath. The Dahat tree groaned as if choking. The branches curled like claws. And from its roots, black smoke began to rise. Not just smoke, shadows. And deep within them eyes. Watching, waiting, hungry. The ground beneath me pulsed like a slow, dying heart. Smoke seeped from the roots of the Dahat tree, curling into the air like ghostly fingers. I took a step back, clutching the mutia tightly, my breath shallow and fast. There were eyes in the smoke, red and unblinking, watching me, studying me like prey. But they didn't attack. They just hovered there, almost mocking. I could feel their hunger, their patience, like they were waiting for something or someone. I didn't know how long I stood there, frozen. When the smoke finally vanished into the soil, it left behind a silence that didn't feel natural. The birds didn't chirp. Even the wind held its breath. Later that day, I sat alone in my room, the mutia glowing faintly in my hand. My mind was heavy with questions. Why now? Why me? And worst of all, what if my father knew everything and left me anyway? That thought hurt more than anything else. I always believed he left because he couldn't handle the grief, that he was too broken after Mama died. But the letters I found said something else. Mama warned him, begged him to protect me, but he disappeared instead, left me behind, alone. Maybe he ran away, or maybe he made a deal. I didn't want to believe that, but something inside me whispered he knew, and he chose himself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the voice again, Amara's voice, soft and desperate, sometimes crying, sometimes calling my name, but never loud, never angry, just lost. I wandered outside before sunrise, mutia in my pocket, unsure of where I was going. My feet led me back to the old trail near the swamp, where Mang Isco had trained us. Karen was already there, sitting on a rock, her face pale. I saw them, she said, without looking at me. In my dreams. 2 of them. They had wings, but they weren't birds. Their eyes glowed like fire. She turned to me, her voice shaking. One of them whispered your name. We sat in silence for a while. I picked up a stick and began drawing patterns in the dirt, trying to calm my nerves. Then she asked, do you think this is what we're meant for? Fighting monsters in the dark? Losing everyone we care about? I didn't know what to say. I was still trying to answer that question myself. But deep down, something told me this wasn't just a curse passed down from blood. This was a war that had been waiting for us. A war we never asked for. Mang Isco arrived just after sunrise. His face was darker than usual, worry lines carving deep into his skin. They're getting closer, he said. The smoke was just a warning, a test. They're watching how strong you are, and they'll keep testing until you break. I told him about the letters, about my father, about the box buried under the stone. He closed his eyes for a long time, then finally said, your father was once a Bante too. Not as strong as your mother, but he had power. He knew what was coming. But when your mother died, something inside him cracked. Did he abandon us? I asked. Mang Isco looked at me, his voice quiet. No, he made a choice. He tried to strike a bargain with the Iswangs. He thought he could save you from this life by giving them something they wanted. I felt my heart sink. What did he give them? Isco didn't answer right away. Then he said, we don't know, but the price was heavy, and they didn't forget. I turned away, blinking fast. It hurt. It hurt more than anything, to know that my father may have tried to trade me like some token. Even if he meant well, it didn't feel like love. It felt like betrayal. That evening, while returning home, I heard rustling from the path behind me. I turned quickly, heart racing, mutia already in my palm. Nothing, but I felt something, like being watched through thick glass. I moved faster. When I reached home, our front door was slightly open. I knew I closed it before leaving. I crept inside slowly, my body tense. The house was empty, except for smell. Rotting meat. I followed it to the small back room, where he kept old clothes and broken tools. The door creaked as I opened it. Inside, scratched into the wooden wall, were words written in dried blood. You carry her light. You carry her curse. I stumbled back, slamming the door shut. My hands were shaking, my breath ragged. I didn't sleep that night either. The next day, Uncle Boyd noticed. You look like death, he muttered, handing me a plate of rice and fried egg. I didn't respond. You've been different these past few days, he said. Like your mother before he stopped. What? I asked, suddenly alert. Before she what? He looked at me, long tired. She used to talk to trees, he said. Said she heard whispers in water. She knew things, saw things. The elders said she had the sight. But I thought it was just grief. Did you know what she was? I asked. He nodded. Slowly. I knew, but I didn't want to believe it. I thought she'd left that life behind when she married your father. But fate doesn't care about peace. That sentence hit hard. Fate doesn't care about peace. Later, I met Karen at the old bridge. We sat on the edge, legs dangling above the water. The breeze was cold. I don't think I'm ready, I told her. She smiled sadly. No one is, but we don't get to choose. I am scared. Me too. We sat there in silence for a while, the river whispering beneath us. Suddenly, a soft splash. We both turned. Something was floating down the river. A small wooden box. It hit the bridge's stone base and cracked open. Inside, bones. Small, brittle. Children's bones. Carved into one of the pieces was a symbol, the same one that appeared in my dream. The one my mother showed me, reaching across the river. Karen and I looked at each other. The enemy wasn't just hiding in shadows. They were already here, among us, feeding, preparing. That night, the wind carried laughter, high-pitched and wrong, like children playing in a graveyard. The dahat tree creaked like it was weeping. The mutia pulsed with heat. I dreamed again. Amara stood at the edge of the forest, crying. They're inside the blood, she whispered. They were human faces. Then behind her a woman appeared, long dark hair, golden eyes, floating just above the ground. She looked at me and smiled. My son, she said, but it wasn't my mother. It was something wearing her face. When I woke, I could still hear her voice, and the words she left behind echoed like a curse. You will choose your soul or your bloodline. I don't know what that means yet, but I feel it coming. The storm. And when it breaks, everything will change. The nights were growing longer, not just in time, but in weight. It felt like the darkness lingered a little more with each sunset, like the air itself was changing, thicker, colder, harder to breathe. Even the dogs in the neighborhood barked less. People whispered more, and deep down, everyone knew something was wrong, but no one dared to say it. Inside me, a war was building, between fear and duty, between the boy who just wanted peace and the Bante who had no choice but to fight. Karen and I trained every day now, under the mangrove trees, near the riverbank, even in the cemetery, where the air was always damp and heavy. Mang Isco pushed us hard, not just physically, but spiritually. He said the final test wouldn't be with fists or blades. It would be with the heart, with the mind. But I still couldn't sleep at night. That face in my dream, the woman wearing my mother's voice, it haunted me. Her words never left me. You will choose your soul or your bloodline. What did that even mean? Was there something inside me, something darker, that I didn't know? One afternoon, after another long training session, Karen sat beside me on a mossy stone. She was quiet, her eyes tired. We're not ready, she said softly. I didn't answer. We've learned the chants, the signs, how to use the mutia, but something's missing. I looked at her. Like what? She paused. Belief. I wanted to disagree, but she was right. I carried the mutia everywhere. It glowed when danger was near. It hummed in my palm when spirits passed. But it couldn't ease the guilt in my chest. Couldn't silence the question that haunted me day and night. What if I fail? That evening, I returned home and found Uncle Boyet waiting at the door, arms crossed. He looked more serious than usual. There was someone here, he said. A woman. Said she was a friend of your mother. I froze. Did she leave a name? He nodded. Salome. My chest tightened. That name. I saw it in the letters Mama wrote. Salome was her cousin, or something more. Maybe a Bante like her. Maybe something else entirely. She left this for you, Uncle said, handing me a folded cloth. Inside was a small necklace. Black string, with a pendant made of carved bone. A single word was etched into it. Aninag. I held it in my hand and felt a sudden rush, like the wind shifted, like time paused for a second. Mang Isco confirmed it later that night. That is a watcher's mark, he said, only given to those who must see what is hidden. I wore it, and that night, everything changed. I saw them. They were no longer hiding. figures moving through the trees at the edge of the village, shapes crawling across rooftops, red eyes glinting in the dark. Not attacking, just waiting, watching, preparing. Karen saw them too. She came running to me one morning, breathless. "There was one in my room," she said, trembling. It didn't speak. It just stood there, but it was smiling. We reported everything to Mang Isco. He didn't look surprised. "The veil is breaking," he said. "The world is thinning. They're coming through more easily now." "What do we do?" I asked. He looked at us with deep sadness. "We fight." The next few days were a blur of preparation. Salt lines drawn across doorways. Old symbols painted in ash on our skin. Mucias soaked in blessed oil. We practiced rituals from an age long forgotten. But even with all that, the fear never left. One night, while I sat under the Dahat tree, clutching the Mucia, I whispered into the wind, hoping Amara could hear me. "I miss you," I said. "I am scared." A cold breeze answered. Then a whisper, "I'm still with you." I turned, and there she was. Not whole, not glowing, but there, a shadow of herself. Pale, flickering like candlelight. Her eyes full of sadness. "You have to be strong," she whispered. "They want your heart, but they fear your soul." "What do they want from me?" I asked. She looked toward the woods, where the shadows stirred. "They want to break the seal. You are the seal." Before I could ask more, her image vanished. The next day, Mang Isco confirmed it. "There was once a bloodline tasked with keeping the world of man and monster apart," he said. "Your family. That Mucia you carry, it's not just a weapon. It's a lock. And you are the key. So, if I die," I began. "The gate opens," he finished. That's when I understood. This wasn't just about fighting shadows or saving a town. It was about stopping a war between realms. And I was the last line holding it back. Karen stayed with me that night. We didn't talk much, just sat near the candlelight, listening to the silence. "I'm glad I'm not alone," I told her. She smiled faintly. "You never were." But even then, in the safety of that moment, I felt the tension tightening. The wind howled louder. The tree branches bent like they were in pain. And far, far in the distance, a horn blew. Low, hollow, not human. The signal. The enemy was moving. Karen and I prepared in silence, packed our charms, recited our mantras, placed the protective ash on our skin. We were ready, or so we thought. As midnight neared, the world grew quiet. Too quiet. Then, the first scream. It came from the town center. Then another. Then 5 more. The sky itself seemed to shiver. We ran. Smoke curled from the roofs. Strange creatures darted through alleyways. Half man, half beast. Twisted. Hungry. Eyes glowing like embers. The Aswangs had come, and they weren't hiding anymore. Karen pulled out her silver comb, holding it tight. I gripped the Mucia until my hand burned. "We stay together," I said. She nodded. "Always." And as we stepped into the heart of the burning town, the wind whispered again. "Choose wisely, Celso. Not all battles are won with strength." The fire rose. The enemy circled. And in the distance, a figure waited in the shadows. Tall, smiling, wearing my father's face. The fire danced in the darkness, painting the walls of our village with wild shadows. Screams echoed in the air, some close, some fading. The smell of smoke, blood, and burning would mix like poison in my lungs. But what made my legs go weak wasn't the fire. It was the face I saw standing beyond it. My father, or something wearing his face. He looked exactly as I remembered. Thin, sun-worn skin, calm eyes, the small scar on his chin. He didn't speak. He just stood there in the middle of the street, hands at his sides, watching me with a strange stillness, like a statue waiting for something. Karen stopped beside me, breath short. "Celso, is that?" I nodded slowly. "Yes. Or maybe no. I don't know anymore." I took a step forward. "Papa." He blinked once. The fire behind him roared higher, like reacting to his presence. Then he spoke, his voice low, too calm for everything burning around us. Celso, I came back for you. I didn't move. Something inside me screamed to run. But another part, one that remembered the smell of my father's shirt, or the way he used to whistle when fixing nets, held me still. You left, I said. You let everything fall apart. I did, he said without emotion. Because I had to. I saw what was coming. I tried to stop it. He raised one hand slowly. But I failed. Suddenly, his shadow stretched long, longer than any normal shadow should. It slithered across the dirt road like a living thing, wrapping around the base of a tree. The tree twisted, groaned, then split open from the inside. From its trunk spilled black liquid, and from that liquid came a creature. It had no face, only a mouth, wide, toothless, open like it was always screaming. Its skin was smooth like stone, but pulsing like a heart. It crawled on all fours, sniffing the air like it could smell fear. Karen pulled me back. Celso, that's not your father. I knew, but hearing her say it made it real. The creature lunged toward us, but before it reached, the mutia in my hand flared with light. The creature stopped, shrieking like the light burned it, and slid backward into the smoke. My father's face twisted, not in anger, but disappointment. You don't understand, he said. They're not your enemies. You are. Before I could ask what he meant, he vanished into the fire. We ran, through alleys, over collapsed fences, past burning rooftops. The village was falling apart, and in every corner, twisted things were crawling out of places they didn't belong. A woman crying blood near the well. A child floating above the rice field, eyes black as night. Shadows whispering through the wind. And all of them were watching me. We found Mang Isco near the chapel ruins, his staff drawn, chanting under his breath. Around him, a circle of salt glowed faintly. Several other villagers were hiding inside it, trembling, crying, clutching each other. He looked up as we approached, sweat dripping from his face. You saw him, didn't you? He said. I nodded. My father, or what's left of him. Mang Isco lowered his voice. He gave something to them, something ancient. I feared this day would come. What did he give them? I asked chest-height. Your name, he said. Your true name, the one that binds you to the seal. My heart stopped. In the old days, he continued, a Bante was protected by more than mutia or blood. Their true name was kept secret, only spoken in sacred rites. If someone gave it willingly to the dark, they gave permission. So I swallowed. He gave them me. Mang Isco nodded slowly. And now they don't need to break the gate. They only need you to open it. My knees almost gave out. The weight of it all crushed my chest. My father didn't just abandon us. He gave me away, traded my soul for a false peace. Karen held my arm. Her touch grounded me. But you still have a choice, she whispered. Mang Isco looked at me with tired eyes. They may have your name, but they do not have your will. That is what will decide everything. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound tore through the sky. The ground shook. We all looked toward the east, toward the mountains. A pillar of light shot up from behind the hills. But it wasn't like the light of the mutia. This one was blood red, twisting, writhing. The seal is weakening, Isco whispered. They're calling the Matanda. The Matanda, the oldest of the Aswang blood. A being so ancient its name had been erased from human memory. If it crossed into our world, nothing would remain. Karen looked at me. We have to go there. I shook my head. We're not ready. No one's ever ready, she said. But this is ours now. Before we could move, something slammed into the salt barrier around us. A figure in a tattered white dress. Amara. But her eyes, they were all black now. She hovered outside the circle, her mouth moving, but no sound escaping. Her hands clawed at the invisible wall of salt, desperate, confused. I stepped forward, mutia glowing faintly. Amara, she stopped. Then, her voice, cracked and trembling, filled my ears. They're using me, she said. I didn't mean to, but I'm inside now. I can see everything. See what? I asked. The root, she whispered. It's not in the mountains. It's under you. My blood ran cold. They're not opening the gate from outside. They're digging up what was buried. Manisko Gapet. No, they found the Inugut, the original guardian. She was buried beneath this land, sealed to keep balance. If they wake her, a sudden gust of wind exploded around us. The salt barrier shattered. Amara was thrown back, and from the hole in the ground near the chapel rose something old. Not monstrous, not bloody, but beautiful. Too beautiful. Long black hair, pale skin glowing with soft gold. Her eyes were like the moon. She smiled at me, not with warmth, but with knowing. You called me, she said. Karen pulled me behind her. Who are you? I asked, my voice shaking. She floated above the dirt, bare feet not touching the ground. Around her, the plants wilted. I'm the first, the one your bloodline was sworn to guard and to bury. She extended her hand to me. And now, my child, it is time to come home. Mang Isko shouted something in the old tongue and threw a charm toward her. It burst in flames before it even touched her skin. The woman's eyes turned to him. You should have let him choose in peace. She looked back at me. But he still can. I didn't move. Inside, my soul screamed. My heart shattered. Everything I thought I knew about right and wrong was crumbling. The enemy wasn't just outside. It was inside the ground. Inside my name. Inside me. And the real war had only just begun. The wind howled like a wounded beast as she hovered in front of me. This woman, this being, this first guardian who claimed I was part of her. Her beauty wasn't comforting, it was terrifying. Her eyes didn't glow with light, they pulled light in. Her smile was too calm, too knowing, like she had already seen how this would end. Karen stepped in front of me, her silver comb trembling in her hand. Don't listen to her, she whispered, her voice fierce. She's lying, but I couldn't move. Something inside me, deep in my blood, was responding to her voice. Like an echo waking up. Like some hidden part of me had always known she was there, beneath the ground, waiting. The Aina Yuget extended her hand again. You feel it, don't you? That ache in your chest. That pull. I'm not here to destroy you, Celso. I'm here to take back what was mine, what was ours. You were made from me. That mutia you carry, it's a seed from my heart. Mang Isko tried again. He raised his staff and slammed it into the earth, shouting a protection prayer, one older than any language we spoke. For a moment, the air shimmered, like the world itself was trying to resist her presence. But she didn't flinch. She just turned her gaze toward him, and the staff in his hands cracked, splitting into dry splinters like it had been dead for 100 years. Mang Isko fell to his knees, gasping for breath. Enough, she said. He has served his time. But you, Celso, you are still mine to choose. Karen shouted. You don't get to choose for him. She lunged forward, the silver comb glowing as she struck. But the Ainayuget merely raised her hand. Karen was lifted into the air, frozen mid-movement, like a doll caught in invisible threads. My heart pounded. No, I screamed, stepping forward. You don't have to fight, the Ainayuget said softly. The world has forgotten balance. The humans built walls and silenced the land. I only want to wake the old ways, and you can help me. But you're hurting people, I said, voice shaking. You turned Amara into a puppet. You've let the Aswangs feed. You've destroyed everything. She tilted her head. Those were not my hands. That was your kind. The ones who rejected the pact. The ones who buried me and said my name in fear. I did not start this war, but I will finish it. Tears stung my eyes. I looked at Karen, still frozen, her face twisted in pain. You said the Mutia came from your heart, I said. She nodded. Then maybe it can stop your heart. Before she could react, I pressed the glowing Mutia into my chest. It burned, not like fire, like truth. Every memory flooded me. My mother's songs, Amara's laughter, the nights I cried alone, the dreams of drowning in shadows. All of it collided inside me, and then it split open. A light burst from my body, not just white, but every color. It cracked the air around me like thunder. The ground shook, and the Ainayugit screamed, a sound like stone grinding against bone. The light struck her directly, and for the first time, she faltered. Karen dropped to the ground, gasping. I fell to my knees, the mukia pulsing wildly in my chest. "You awakened the core," the Ainayugit said, her voice shaking for the first time. "The last seal." I looked up panting. "Then seal it again." I raised my hands and whispered the words Mang Isko had taught me. Words my blood remembered even if my mind didn't. The language of the Bante Lupa. A circle of light formed around her. She screamed again, but this time not in anger, in sorrow. "You don't understand," she said. "If you seal me, the land will remain asleep. The balance will remain broken, and you will never know who you truly are." I hesitated. Was she right? Were we the real destroyers? Had we silenced something sacred? "Celso, don't," Karen said, pulling herself up. "She's twisting the truth. You saw what she's done." I turned back to the Ainayugit. "Then let the land choose." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the necklace Salome had given me, the one with the word Aninak. I placed it at the center of the light circle. It began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. Then the ground split open, but not in destruction, in light. For the cracks rose roots, living, glowing, wrapping around the Ainayugit like vines of gold. They pulled her down, not with violence, but with peace. She looked at me, no longer angry. "Your mother was stronger than they knew," she whispered, "and you are stronger than her." Then she was gone, sealed. The light faded. The ground closed. Silence fell over the village. Karen fell beside me, exhausted. We didn't speak. We just sat in the ash and smoke, the battle over, but the wounds still fresh. A few hours later, the first birds began to sing. Mang Isko was alive, though weak. He smiled at us like a proud father. "You did it," he said. "The seal holds." "But at what cost?" I asked. He didn't answer. The village mourned its dead, rebuilt its homes. The spirits faded slowly. The Iswangs had vanished, perhaps retreated, perhaps destroyed when the seal took the root back. Amara was never seen again. But sometimes when I pass at a hot tree, I feel a soft breeze and a warm whisper. 1 month later, I sat by the river, Karen beside me. We were quiet, watching the water. Then she said, "Do you ever wonder if she was right?" "Who?" "The Ainayugit. That we're part of something that was never ours to bury." I nodded. "I wonder every day." "Would you do it again?" she asked. I looked up at the sky. The wind was light, the sun soft. "I think we all carry roots we didn't plant," I said. "But it's still our job to protect what grows from them." She smiled. But as we turned to leave, something caught my eye. In the water, a figure. A woman. Hair long. Eyes gold. Watching. Smiling. Not angry. Just waiting. The days after the battle felt quiet, but not the peaceful kind. It was the silence that comes after a storm. The kind that leaves everything standing but changed. Our village looked almost the same, but I knew it never would be again. People tried to return to their old lives. The market reopened. The children played near the river again. But something lingered in the way the elders watched the trees, in the way doors were locked before sundown. The veil between our world and theirs had thinned. Even sealed, that line would never be as strong as before. And I, Celso, was no longer just a boy with a painful past. I had become something else, something I didn't fully understand. Karen stayed by my side. We didn't talk much about the battle. Some wounds needed time. But sometimes when we walked past at a hot tree or sat near the rice fields, she would reach for my hand quietly. That was enough. One morning, Mang Isko asked to meet us by the mangrove trail. He looked older, weaker, but there was still light in his eyes. "You both did more than what the old guardians could," he said. "You didn't just fight back, you chose balance." He handed me a small wooden box. Inside it was the mutia, now dim, its glow soft like a dying ember. "It's still alive," I whispered. Yes, he said, but sleeping, like the land. And maybe that's what it needs. Time to rest, just like all of us. I looked up at him. What now? Mang iskos my. You live. You remember. And when the time comes again, and it will come, you'll be ready. But not as a child hiding in fear, as a keeper of the truth. Later that day, I visited Mama's old grave. The grass around it was overgrown. The stone was cracked. I knelt and placed the box with the sleeping Mutia beside it. I hope I made you proud, I whispered. The wind passed gently through the trees, and for a second, it smelled like her cooking, like dried fish and warm rice. Maybe that was her answer. I finally opened the last letter I had found in the tin box, one she wrote to me but never sent. My son, if you're reading this, it means the world has begun to wake again. It means the old wounds are stirring. I am sorry for leaving too soon, for not telling you everything. But I believe in you, even when I cannot walk beside you. You are more than blood, more than fate. You are choice. Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to lose. That is what makes us human, even when the world turns dark. Love always, Mama, I cried quietly. Not from fear, not even from sadness, but from release. Amara never came back. Her body was never found. But once, near the tree where she had first appeared, I saw white petals on the ground. No trees nearby had white flowers. I smiled. Maybe she was free now. Maybe her soul had finally found the way home. Uncle Boyet started talking more after that night. He told me stories about my mother, how she would sing to the river, how she used to say that the land speaks if you listen with your heart. One night, he sat beside me on the porch and said, I was wrong not to believe her. I was scared, but I'm proud of you, boy. Your mama would have been too. I nodded. Thanks, Uncle. We didn't say anything after that. Just sat under the stars, the way men do when words aren't enough. Karen eventually started writing a journal. She said it helped keep the memories in one place. Not to forget, but to remember properly. The world needs witnesses, she said, even if they never believe us. I agreed, but I didn't write anything down. My memory was already a living thing inside me. I didn't need paper. One evening, months after the seal was restored, I walked alone by the river. That same river where I first saw her, the Ainayugat. The water was still. The moon reflected clearly. I waited. Nothing came. Then I whispered, I forgive you, not for what she did, but for what she was. She was part of a truth the world had tried to bury, a truth that fought back. And though I had sealed her away again, I understood her pain now. She wasn't just the enemy. She was the memory of everything the land had lost. I stood and walked away. That night, I dreamed of my mother, not in pain, not in warning, but in peace. She stood in a field of golden grass, barefoot, eyes closed, humming an old lullaby. When she opened her eyes, she smiled at me. You made the right choice, she said. I woke up with tears in my eyes. From that day, I lived differently. I listened more. I walked slower. I began helping Mang Isco teach the old chants to the younger ones, just in case. Karen and I planted a new tree beside the chapel ruins. A Dahat sapling. She tied a red thread around its base. For protection, she said, and remembrance. We didn't talk about what we had lost anymore, only what we had saved. And sometimes, when the wind changes and the night grows too still, I place my hand over my chest, where the Mutia used to glow, and feel a soft warmth. A reminder that I was once the gate, and I chose not to open it. Final reflection. There are stories that end with heroes rising, some with monsters falling, and some, like mine, with a simple boy choosing not to become something more powerful, but something more human. In the end, I wasn't chosen by fate. I chose it, and maybe that's what makes all the difference.